There weren't a lot of police functioning in the area, so I feel like the local gangs kind of used that to their advantage and were doing whatever they were doing, and there was some sort of there was a shooting between another rival gang, and it just happened while we were on air.
Today on the podcast, we have Luke Mailander. He's an Associated Press camera operator, and he travels the world to bring breaking news and other stories to life. And we talked about all of the aspects of traveling with gear to also traveling to some of the craziest places in the world. He was in Ukraine when it was invaded. And he also talked about the cool places he's been. Like he got to go to the World Cup and see the US play the Netherlands, which was awesome, even though they lost. But we talked about film and shooting 35 millimeter film still and how he does that to get some more creativity boosts. And it was just a really good all around conversation about the work he does for the Associated Press. Check it out. Luke, welcome to the podcast. I think one thing that I'd really like to tap into right away and immediately is how you shoot film still. You said you do some walks with your film camera. I do that as well. So what do you shoot with?
Yeah, very often. To be honest, I don't have anything too fancy. I have a Canon. It's a Canon QL17G3.
Nice.
Honestly, I think I bought it for like $150 or something like that a few years ago, but it's nice and compact. It fits in a pocket, so it's easy to travel with me wherever I go. So it's definitely something I keep on hand pretty often, and it's a different way to take pictures. I really enjoy it. It's kind of a nice surprise when you get the film back and the tones and the color are just right, and it's really kind of a rewarding, gratifying feeling when you get your film back and it looks as you hoped it would.
Yeah, it's fun to slow down too. I'm sure that is one of the reasons I do it that way, because like everything's so fast in the video world, and like I'm sure with what you do at the Associated Press, like it's nice to slow down, and that's what it does, is allows you to slow down a little bit.
Definitely, yeah. And you have to well, one, it costs a little bit more money than digital.
Yeah.
So, it does force you to kind of take a step back, think your frames, think your composition through, and kind of value each click that you're pressing. You know, it kind of makes you think twice, which is nice. You know, it kind of, different way to shoot pictures for sure.
Yeah, and I was checking out, I think it's William Eggleston. You said was one of the guys that inspires you. I checked out some of his stuff. It's awesome. Like he was basically like pioneer of color photography back in the day. Yeah,
correct. And when you like read and listen to him talk, he doesn't always, subject matter, of course, but you realize that he's taking pictures a lot of everyday scenes that you see out on the streets, and he's really looking at a lot of the color, and that kind of made me think differently about shooting film and pictures in general. Is not just composition and subject matter, but also the colors that are involved and how they play against each other, the contrast. Kind of recalibrated my eye, I guess, a little bit, because composition is something that I'm like looking at constantly in the live broadcast world, like what's in the background, how much headroom does someone have, or where's their eye line. Color kind of comes second. So obviously you want it to be accurate. You don't want someone to be blue on TV, but I'm not looking so much as like what colors are playing against each other. I'm more so looking at what's the story about, and how can I fit the background of whatever the reporter is in front of, and make sure that's accurately reflecting of the story itself.
So I'm not a film guy at all. I actually don't think I've ever shot film.
Really?
Come on. I don't think I have.
We're going to change that.
Oh, it's fun. Even just the disposables are a great time.
Yeah. Well, so I've shot with disposables, but does buying the film, whatever film you buy, does that play into the colors that you get out of it?
Yeah, for sure. There's
Okay.
definitely different film stocks that have their own look, and people. I tend to always shoot Fujifilm, Fuji C200. I just like how it looks. It looks accurate to my eye, but a lot of people like Kodak. Portra is like a big one that people use. Portra is supposed to be have like really nice skin tones. It's for portrait photography, but it takes really nice landscape shots as well. So
So a lot of people are
there's
still shooting
definitely
film.
different looks. Yeah, I think of a fair amount are, and it's kind
Wow.
of like making this comeback along with like a lot of things in the analog world. Vinyl, I know, is like on the up and up, and there's tons of new
Wow.
vinyl factories. So I feel like it's kind of part of this resurgence in the analog world. But yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun. Definitely give it a shot the next time you're out and about.
Yeah, you should try it. It's super fun. It's like, I don't know, there's something about it because you get to pick your film, you pick the lens and camera, and it's like you get whatever, 36 shots, 24 shots per
Hmm.
roll if you're
Correct.
shooting 35, and it's just fun.
Yeah.
Dan,
So I mean, I guess
you
for
got to
me,
try
the
it.
only photography that I enjoy shooting is wildlife photography. So I think me bringing in a film camera out shooting wildlife would just, I
Be
don't
a
think
little bit
because
more
you're always
challenging for
clicking. You know what I
sure.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
but it'd be
yeah.
sweet. Imagine taking like a picture of a moose in a landscape. Like
With
the
the film. Yeah.
film, like when you see it when it comes back, like Luke was saying, it's like it literally looks like you were there. Like digital kind of has that digital sharp edge on it. And like
Yeah.
film, it's crazy. Like the shadows, the highlights, everything's still there.
Yeah, it's just a different look that I was always kind of drawn to. And yeah, like you were saying, different film stocks, different grain, different colors. People love to shoot black and white. There's like a film stock called Tri-X 400, very grainy, harsh contrast. And then there's also, I forget what else. There's also really fast black and white film stocks that, have a very fine grain. So yeah, it's fun. Just play around different stocks and see how it works in different scenarios.
And did you shoot a lot of film like growing up too, or is that a new thing that you just took up?
No, I started maybe about like 7 or 8 years ago. Just kind of was interested in it. I think I took a class in high school, maybe. To be honest, I don't even really remember how I got into it. But during COVID, I definitely like doubled down and learned how to develop my
Oh, that's
own,
cool.
uh, yeah, photographs at home, just to process it and scan it into a computer. That was my COVID activity for sure. Gave me plenty of time to mess
Yeah.
around. Lots of trial and error for sure.
Yeah, it's fun to develop. I did that in high school, learned that whole process, and it was cool to see like how long you leave it in certain chemicals and like how long it takes for the film to be exposed. And it's cool to see the real process of it.
Yeah, it's a process for sure.
Yeah.
Huge learning curve. I was
Yeah.
kind of like teaching myself, so a lot of time went into it. To be honest, I don't do it as much anymore. Definitely could be a little bit frustrating, especially I shot a lot of test rolls. You don't want to use any pictures you really want back.
Right.
So a lot of it was just walks in the neighborhood, but it was a good way to kill time during COVID and definitely fun. I'll have to give it another go at one point or another.
Yeah. I enjoy it. I don't do any of the developing myself anymore because, like you said, it's like you mess up one thing and then all of a sudden everything's gone. All your
Yeah,
pictures are gone.
breaks your heart.
It
You
breaks
come
your
back and
heart.
you have that empty roll of
Yeah.
just white on every frame. You're like, oh god, that hurts a little bit.
Yeah. It's like your hard drive getting erased and you
Exactly.
can't back
Same
it up.
feeling.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So when you started getting into video and the whole film world, I think you said earlier that you started in the skateboard world. Like when you were skateboarding, you'd always film your friends skating.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely where I got my start. Used to skateboard a lot as a kid, just always out in the street, running around with a few buddies of mine. But yeah, that was where I picked up my first video cameras. I think the first one was a high 8 camera, and then I
Yeah.
moved, which was like the bigger tapes, and then I moved on to the mini DV, which was like a little bit smaller. But that was kind of when I first started digitizing tape the Firewire and using the camera as an actual playback device and recording it into the computer. And even just that process, I, kind of fell in love with. But yeah, it was a great time. I mean, I was always okay at skateboarding. I wasn't the best by any means, but I always got a huge thrill out of, following my buddies around and just shooting the scenes in between the skateboarding and putting it together into a little short at the end of the day. That was always a great time. Definitely what helped fuel my love for it.
Yeah, that's how Dan got his start. Dan's actually still a great skateboarder.
Is that right?
Still skating, still getting hurt, but no, that's actually exactly how I started in the film world. Was filming my friends. Really, I bought the camera for them to film me, but then no one wanted to film, so it turned out me filming. And I'm actually same thing, mini DV. I tried El Toro back in the day, so I have it on a mini DV, and I'm like, God. I have no way to play it, and I'm like texting my friends like, how can I get this footage off this tape? Just because I don't have a converter or anything, so I'm still trying to figure out how to do that.
Wait, I have one. You never told me that.
Stop it!
Yeah, dude.
I'll be over today.
I have a bunch of cameras still. I have mini DVs.
My God.
I've got converters, all that stuff. I didn't know you were trying to convert something all this time.
I thought about hitting you up because I hit up my other skater friends, and they were just like, "Oh, we have an old one, but I don't know if it works. It might eat the tape." And I'm like, "All right," but I never even thought about hitting you up. I was like, "Yeah,
I still have
good
a
to
couple.
know."
Yeah,
make sure to send a copy of my way. I'd definitely be interested to see that.
Yeah. I know. I keep hearing about it, but I haven't seen it, so I'm excited now to get
there's
this.
only one quick little clip on YouTube of it, so
that's a big stair set, right?
Yeah. My buddy Dave Paczynski did kickflip down it.
Damn.
And landed it, and then some guy, I forget his name, Jocelyn or something, did tray flip, landed it, but then fell. So they don't count it, but I count it.
How many stairs is that?
20.
Jesus. Yeah, no. Like, I don't see why that's ever a thing. Like, you see a stair set and you're like, I should jump this on a skateboard. Like, that seems crazy.
I would definitely stay behind the camera on something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's, I mean, I used to skateboard and I filmed my friends, but I was more of like the one that filmed, and like, I wasn't that good. And it was fun to just be around it. And like, the mini DV stuff is crazy. Like, I remember that whole process. It was fun. But like now it's so much quicker. Like, you don't have to watch the whole tape or wait for the whole tape to import.
Yeah, especially if you're filming someone's line and, it's taking them a long time to finish. I'm like looking how far back you need to rewind that you can like re-record over. It's totally,
do you remember when people had like the VX with the fisheye and they would put their hand over it after someone landed
something? So you knew it was a good one.
So you knew, right, when you're scrolling through it, you knew that was a land.
It was like a quick little visual cue to give yourself.
Kids still do it now, but I don't think they realize what it was for.
For the nostalgic effect, I guess. Yeah.
I had no idea that that's what that was for.
Yeah.
It's like a marker.
To mark it. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, there's all those little things that you learned back then that like you don't really even need to do now, but it's kind of fun to bring some of that stuff back.
Yeah, for sure. Even some of the terminology still translate to this day,
Oh, yeah.
Film this, film that, and, everyone's shooting digital.
Yeah, so true. I think with what you do now, too, did you ever see yourself doing the job that you do now, which is like traveling the world and filming news and different events that are happening? I mean, you've done some incredible events and also some like dangerous situations. Like, did you ever think you'd be in the job you're in now?
No, you know what? I never really did. Skateboarding was kind of the jumping off point, and then I made a lot of short films with my buddies growing up. We always got a kick out of that, but between those two things, I always kind of knew that I wanted to work a camera in some capacity, but I didn't exactly know how. When you're a kid, you always think movies, but I wasn't sure how realistic that was, but I went to school, got my degree in TV and radio production, and then graduated. My old man owned the landscaping company, so I was working with him, and then I got my first freelance gig working for News 12 Long Island, which is like the first 24-hour local news channel, I believe, in the States.
Wow.
So I got my first gig with them, my first freelance gig with them, working about like 3 days a week. I was doing the 12:30 to 11 shift, running around, grinding, doing local news. And that's kind of where I first got my love for the news. I love the hustle and bustle, the meeting the deadlines. I like the thrill of breaking news. Definitely gets your adrenaline going a little bit. So that was kind of where my love for the news started. And I definitely grew to really love it and appreciate it. It's definitely, I guess, it's definitely a different kind of visual medium that I guess, at first it's like, fact-based and people are there for information, but I do think it's its own visual medium and its own regard.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then I got my job with the AP, and I've been with them for the last about 8 years. It'll be at the end of this month. So yeah, I've been very grateful. It's taken me to great countries, great stories. Learned a ton, with them. Learned a ton about the world, and it's been a ride for sure.
Yeah, I think that's part of the cool aspect of that too, is you get to see the world, which like opens your eyes to like culture and what's around the world and how people interact differently in some of these locations that you're in.
Yeah, definitely. You learn, and I try to immerse myself wherever I am. I mean, I'm not definitely ignorant sometimes on some of the stories you need to go and cover. I'm not familiar with everything, so I definitely try to, especially if it's a new country, definitely try to learn as much about the culture as I can there and get out and talk to people. And doesn't even necessarily mean going to a museum in your downtime. You go to a restaurant or a bar and shoot it with the locals at night. That's how you learn a lot about it. Hemingway has some good quote like that. I forget exactly what it is, but it's essentially like, you want to learn about the people and the culture, you go into the bar at the end of the night and have a pint with the locals. And I
Yeah.
definitely find that to be true.
I think that's the biggest thing with any sort of like networking or learning is like if you want to learn about people, you need to be with them where they hang out, you know? And I think
Yeah.
that's something that people like often overlook. They're like, oh, I'll learn about it online and then I'll go there and I'll try and speak the language. It's like
Hmm.
just go to that cafe or that bar and just sit there and like take it in. Like it's different than the US. It's different than Italy's different than Brazil. It's like all
Of course.
a different situation.
Sometimes you're not even, as long as they're speaking English. Unfortunately, I don't speak many other
It's
any other
hard.
languages.
Yeah.
But, sometimes you even just catch like the glimpse of another conversation. You overhear someone, you're eavesdropping by accident, and, you can learn about how people are feeling about whatever event is happening. And, maybe they might be talking about the story or they're covering. So, yeah, it's always good to go out and see things for yourself and meet people if you can. And, yeah, just put yourself out there, immerse yourself a little bit.
Yeah. And one of the things that you got to do too, which was really cool, is you got to go to the World Cup, which I am super jealous of because I've always wanted to go to the World Cup and I still have not been.
Yes, very lucky. I think it was actually the first football match I've ever been to. Was
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, super lucky to see USA play the Netherlands. I think it was the USA's. I think it was in their second round. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
they lost, but still very cool to be in a stadium that size, surrounded by all these huge soccer fans, and it was an incredible experience to say the least. And even I think that was the only game I went to, but even just working and following every day, I mean, it was a great World Cup, great finish, and to be there in the midst of it and hearing these fans after they win a game. Like I remember the Moroccan fans were just out in full force like every night.
That's awesome.
I was definitely working the morning shift. I was up at like, I don't know, 5:36 in the mornings, and I'm hearing these Moroccan fans like cruising around 2 a.m. blasting music. You see their flags going through the streets. I mean, just incredible energy. It was so cool to be around and talk to people. And Doha was a city, like, I think it was my first time in the Middle East. So Doha was kind of my first experience over there. So, yeah, all around, just a great time, and always get to work with great people. I love the people I work with overseas. So, you know, you get to link up with some good friends that you haven't seen in a while too on some of these bigger events.
Yeah. And when you travel to something like that, what does that look like for your group? Do you bring like a ton of Pelican cases? Is there a lot of local resources that you use there?
Yeah, we ship, you know, it depends. If I'm traveling domestically, everything's in a Pelican case and I'll bring everything with me. I think usually about like 7 cases of gear is about the norm, including the cart that I bring it on. But if we're traveling internationally, especially over to Doha, I think most of our gear came from our London bureau. Definitely some more, I think, from New York and DC as well. And we just work with shipping companies and it gets sent over there on pallets. So it is a huge build out. I mean, you're there weeks in advance to help
Does
with the
stuff
build
ever
out of
get
everything.
lost?
I was going to say lost or stolen.
Yeah.
Yeah, inevitably, unfortunately. I have had a case get lost on me in Mexico City once after an earthquake.
Oh, damn.
Luckily, I was still pretty green, and I was with some other colleagues who were helping me. So I felt like the blame didn't totally fall on my shoulders. But yeah, it does happen, and things do get stolen. I had a colleague of mine get his camera and all his stuff stolen in San Francisco last year. We were covering the APEC, and yeah, I think he was loading his gear in a taxi, turned his back for a minute, and that's it.
Wow.
You know, 2 seconds later, I don't even know how much he lost, 10, 15 grand.
Damn.
Out the
San
window.
Francisco's bad. It's
yeah. And
people think it's bad at other places. Like San Francisco's pretty, like, people steal stuff quick.
Oh yeah, it happened quickly, and we were staying downtown because we were staying close to the event venue. But we were in the Tenderloin, so you know, a little sketchy over there, and that's where I got swiped. So yeah, you got to be careful for sure. The camera is definitely the first thing I put in the taxi cab whenever I'm going because it's easy to take. Pelican case, not so much. So I always make sure it's the first thing in and the last one out.
Yeah, and the Pelican cases are like a dead giveaway. That's the one thing with traveling with them that I see. Like, I want to travel with one, and I usually do. But like, depending on where we're going, I'll try and like backpack it if I can. Like because like the minute somebody sees a Pelican case, there's like questions, especially at borders. Like I've been questioned at like the border in China before because they're like, "Oh, why do you have a Pelican case? And what are you doing here?" I mean, for you, it's probably a lot easier because you're Associated Press, so you're like, you have passes and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of military folks store their equipment in Pelican cases too. Anything like that. So yeah, I could see eyebrows getting raised. But when I'm on the plane, I definitely carry the camera with me. I'm like, we don't want it to, 1, get lost, or 2, just break on the way to whatever shoot you're going to. You don't want to like show up with all your gear but have your camera be broken. So definitely carry it on. Always fighting with flight attendants who are telling me my carry-on luggage is too big or too heavy.
I hate that.
You know,
it happened to me once. Like I went to go roll onto the plane. The lady's like, "That's not going to fit." And I'm like, "Yeah, it will. It has before." And she's like, "It's not going to fit." And I'm like, "Can I try it?" And she's like, "No." And I'm like, "Well, I'm going to try it." And so the other lady on the plane was like, "He can try it." And then I was able to fit it on, and I like looked down, and I saw the other lady, and I was like, "It fit." And she was like, "Yeah, whatever."
She hated you even more after that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And that happens too. There's definitely an art to traveling and talking to people. I always go in with a big smile first, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But sometimes you have to just kind of do what you have to do to get it on there and make it work. So
yeah. See, I love, like, I'm so interested in this. I mean, really, you're the first person to like get the news before other people do as well. So like, I feel like that's pretty cool. And like, when you go to like a dangerous country reporting on news, like, how is that for you? Like, are you excited to go and cover it, or are you like a little nervous?
To be honest, I'm never at the front lines or anything because what I do is live broadcast. So we travel with a ton of equipment. So we're never upfront, in the thick of it, because we just have, it's just really not something that we do, and we do live broadcasts. So we're always kind of in like a somewhat safer space, a capital. But, things like that do happen. Like it can get a little scary at times. It was never something, it's something new to me for like the last 2 years. Been in and out of Ukraine like 5 or 6 times, and then to Israel in October and December of last year to cover the conflict there. So, but it was in Jerusalem and in Kiev and Lviv in Ukraine. So we were never in the Far East in Ukraine. We were never at the war, but I was in Kiev when the Russians pushed over the border. So I got to see, the capital change very quickly in a couple of days to be, completely devoid of civilians and businesses, and all the ATMs emptied out of the money. It changed very, very quickly. That was kind of my first taste at it. We got there a couple of weeks before the invasion, and then stayed for, I think, maybe another week inside of Kiev before we took a very long car ride west to Lviv, where a lot of the media was kind of relocating to, along with a lot of the embassies and diplomats and what have you.
Now, do you have like your own biases when you go in? Like maybe the Russians are coming in and you're like, why are they doing this or whatever? Or are you just there shooting because you love to do it?
No, I mean, as a journalist, you really need to like put that behind you. You can't have bias. You can't have, you don't let those thoughts creep in. You're there to report the news. And especially if it's in the beginning of a, something very important like that, you're just there to report the facts. You're there to get the facts out and the information out. You're not there to speculate or anything like that. You just want to, especially because I feel like working in the media, a lot of people have a lot of, hostilities towards the media. They have their own biases towards the media. So working for the AP, we're kind of, especially since we're a news agency as well, so other news networks are buying their news from us. So there is a standard, and that, and a very strict one that you need to uphold. You're not leaning left or right, and you have to very much watch what you're saying on the air. Luckily, I don't have to worry about that. But, maybe even if it just comes down to how you frame something, you don't want to convey the wrong ideas. You just want to make sure that you're there to get, the story out, the information out, as clearly, and as factual as possible. You don't want to say anything that you're totally not sure of or is not totally confirmed. So, even a lot of our own on-air reporters will reference what our own company is reporting first before we put it out on the air. Because I'll go to a story with my equipment, and I'll go with our own AP reporter. And then a lot of the times, if news networks, whether they be domestic in the US or international, if they don't have a team there reporting on the story that I'm there to cover, they can hire us for a live segment into their program, into their nightly news segment or what have you. So the reporter I work with speaks 6 different languages.
Wow.
And he will go live. His name's Philip Crowther. He will go live onto different networks around the world. So
that's the other thing. I'm just in my head thinking United States, not even thinking that you guys also are doing this for around the world as well, like other countries and stuff.
Yeah, most of our clients are international. They could be Spanish or Chinese or German or French, anyone really. But then we also will do some domestic networks. When I was in Jerusalem, we worked with Fox sometimes, or PBS or News Nation, a whole slew of them. Really, whoever wants a little extra help with their news program, and we're able to facilitate it, we make it happen.
And how does that feel when you're like going back to like Ukraine, when you're there and you're seeing a capital change and you're seeing people take money out of ATMs and you're seeing everybody, it's like just scatter. How does that feel like as a person to like witness like a thing like this? Cause like I've never been in a situation like that. And so I don't know what that feels like, but what does that feel like to be seeing all these people like scared?
I mean, that was the first time I had ever seen something like that, and it was also the first time I had kind of been in like, a conflict zone. So, I mean, it was definitely eye-opening. You really get the sense of how big this story is that you're witnessing. And I don't know. I mean, it was definitely a little nerve-wracking, to be honest. I mean, it was, you get to see kind of history starting to take its shape in front of you. And that's definitely a part of the job that I feel very privileged to see. But yeah, it happened quick, and I don't know. I guess it happened very quickly.
Yeah. And does that affect your life at all? Or do you think like it changes your views on the world? You're like, okay, everybody's always like, life is short, but you're like, okay, this is something that can happen anywhere. People are changing their demeanor about different things and aspects in life. And so does it make you think about life in general and just like how you are affected as a person?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it really kind of puts things into perspective, and you realize that, even though this was on a much bigger scale, things like this are happening all over, and people live through scenarios like this every day. And whether it's Ukraine or elsewhere, I mean, things like this are happening all over the world. It's definitely, I feel like, makes journalism that much more important, just to get the story out there and make these events known worldwide, and the effect that they have long term, especially this one. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely important for people to be there and to continue to cover these stories and to get the word out to the world, and make sure that people are aware of what's happening and how this will affect the rest of the world long term. Because, you could feel it. We're in the midst of world is, there's two big wars happening right now.
Yeah.
Very much, I mean, big, kind of regional, but who knows what this can happen.
Right. Exactly.
Over the next few years, and how this could influence things moving forward geopolitically.
Yeah. And do you ever, like, does something come across your desk like, hey, we need you to go here, and can you say you don't want to, or do you always have to go to these places when they're like, hey, here's your assignment, you just have to go?
No, I have the option. Okay. I never say no. I don't think I've ever turned down a gig before. One, because I love to travel. If I'm out of the office, I'm happy. I like to be out of the office. And yeah, it's always a learning experience too. I mean, I feel very lucky and privileged to be able to go and cover these stories. So I don't want to say no. I'm thrilled that when I get asked. Even when it's something a little bit more hectic, or something that can be a little bit more scary, like, covering the stories in Israel and Gaza. And I mean, I've never been in Gaza, only in Jerusalem and, Ukraine. But a lot of it has to do with the people that you work with. And I have great teams, like, all over the world. Here in the US, in London, in the Middle East, I work with great people. And that is a huge part of the job.
Right.
As long as you work with a great team, I mean, one, you got to learn from people, especially who have been doing it longer than I am. But also, sometimes when it is a little nervous, or it is very stress inducing, it definitely helps to be surrounded by good folks and good people. And I know that I am, and that's a huge comfort, honestly. When I was in Kiev, when the invasion happened, I was surrounded by a great team. And, you know, even though something very serious and, you know, at times scary is happening, you know, we were watching this like 40-mile Russian convoy barrel towards our location because they wanted to take the capital. You know, that was scary to witness. It was also because it was my first time, so it was, you know, it was a little scary, but you were with great people, and you can even squeeze some jokes out of it. You know, we were having a good time regardless of the situation. You know, not, you know, just making you know, jokes amongst ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Because you have to do something like that.
I'd be the guy. Have you seen the Men in Black scene where the spaceship is crashing and Jay's like looking at Kay like, yo, we going with something? Like, we going to move? That would be me if I saw these people coming at me. I'd be like, yo, are we going to get up out of here or what?
You'd be leaving all the equipment every single time.
Drop everything and run.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Like, I mean, I've seen your reel, and there's a part in your reel where, like, I don't know, it seemed like a gunshot was happening, and you like kept your framing, and the guy who was reporting like ducked down, and you were like, I feel like in that situation I would be like, I'm out.
Yeah, that was the guy I was telling you about earlier, Philip, the polyglot. Yes, they were gunshots. We were there covering the year anniversary of George Floyd's death, so we were at the location where he had died. And
I saw that in the background.
Something totally unrelated. There was a gang shooting, had nothing to do with the story itself, but there weren't a lot of police functioning in the area, so I feel like the local gangs kind of used that to their advantage and were doing whatever they were doing, and there was some sort of there was a shooting between another rival gang, and it just happened while we were on air. I happened to be recording it, caught the whole thing. At first, I feel like we just thought it was like firecrackers because, you know, that happens sometimes, especially, you know, and wherever you are. So, you know, that just happens. But after a few, we realized that wasn't the case. And I just kept the framing for a second and then went wide just so I could capture whatever was going to unfold while me and Philip sought a little bit of cover. There wasn't much. He hid behind a lamppost, and that kind of like got wide at the bottom. There wasn't much around, so I hid behind him.
But it's funny you're even thinking about the frame. Like, let me make sure I zoom out before I go hide, you know?
Yeah, I made sure I was recording, and I made sure to go wide just because, you know, you want to get whatever happens. You want to make sure that you still get that. So after a few seconds, I ran back, and I was able to push in a little bit and get a little bit more. It wasn't very short. It wasn't like a drive-by. It was definitely like a minute long. So after a few seconds, I was able to run back and zoom in and, you know, get a little bit more. But yeah, it's definitely a thrill for sure.
That's crazy. Like that you have that instinct. And do you think that's something you developed over time where it's like, got to capture it. I gotta frame it up. I'm here to cover what's happening, even if what's happening changes. You just like, have you learned that over time, or is that something you've always had?
No, I think that's something you learn, definitely, especially in the news world. You know, you always want to make sure that you keep rolling. And something, you know, a lot of these things I was taught at my first job with News 12. You know, sometimes you go into hairy neighborhoods where, you know, it's late and you're by yourself and just with your reporter, and I was always told that, you know, your camera is your weapon. You don't stop recording. You know, if you kind of feel threatened, you record so you have that as proof later. And that's definitely you know, it's an instinct now. It wasn't back then. It was definitely something that was learned. But I think that's, you know, news influenced for sure.
Yeah, it kind of has like a docu-esque feel too. Like when you see any sort of documentaries or docu-series, it's like always roll. You always have to roll because you have no idea. Like you can't reenact something that happened naturally, you know? So I think that's big. And I see that a lot with documentaries and news as well.
Yeah, news and documentary are very closely entwined in that way, you know.
Yeah, is that ever a space that interests you too? Like if you were to get out of news, would you ever go towards any sort of documentary, docuseries type stuff?
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely something I miss is, or I'd like to pursue is just, you know, doing something a little bit more long format. Because I'm live. I love live. I love shooting live television because it is a thrill and everything that you're doing is happening in real time and everyone sees it, you know. I like that. That's exhilarating for me. But I do miss, you know, shooting something a little bit longer format and sitting with it in the post part of the project, and you know, playing with editing and playing with, you know, shooting a little bit more creatively. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to be able to pursue that at one time or another, but for now I'm sticking with what I'm doing. But who knows if that was an opportunity that presented itself down the line. It's definitely something I'd consider for sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting space. I feel like it's gotten so much bigger now too, documentaries and docuseries, because I feel like we've gotten so far from like interacting with each other that we always like, we crave these like podcasts, documentaries, like these interactions with people through the eyes of other people.
Yeah, and it's, you know, even that much more accessible, and there's so many outlets for it now. You know, you don't have to, you know, there's not just like an hour and a half documentary you could sit down and watch. You know, you can watch a little 10-minute whatever on your phone or on YouTube or on, you know, any social media. And that's, I guess, what's really great about it is that there's such great access to all sorts of content now, and there's, you know, such a plethora of it, and all types of different stuff out there, which, you know, it's ultimately good, I guess. There's, you know, gives everyone a chance to tell a story and get their story out there.
Yeah, because even for the creators, I mean, people are filming with their GoPros. People are, you know, it's just so easy now to acquire a camera for cheap and film your story and put it out there.
That's great for young creators, you know. It gives everyone a chance, you know, and even if you want to have a little side project and you want to just do something for yourself, you know, it gives everyone an outlet and it gives everyone a chance. You know, pretty much everyone's able to access it. You know, you have a phone, that's it. I mean, especially the phone cameras nowadays are incredible. You can do anything with a phone. So it's a great outlet to have too. You know, not something that we had as shooting on tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that was the thing with tape is like you shoot it and then you could watch it back on the little like whatever 1-inch screen, but like you'd have to wait till you got back, put it into the computer, watch it.
Yeah. And not only that too, sometimes it would eat the tape if you watched it back. Like if you're, you know what I mean? If the head wasn't clean or whatever, it was like, that was terrible.
Yeah, definitely a little bit more of a process. And, you know, now you could get it out on social media and push it out right away. You know, like I don't think YouTube or any online platform was as big as it is today. You know, immediately you have something cut and ready. You know, you can push it out to whoever wants to see it. Really.
Yeah. It kind of works into that whole like reporting the news live. Is everybody's trying to report their life live and like show instant things that are happening, because I think we get so bored with like, just seeing the same stuff. So it's like you're hit with so much content constantly that it does feel like you're watching everything unfold live, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, or any of these platforms. It's always like tons of things happening at once.
I just signed up for Twitter, and seeing the videos that they play on there, like some people upload, is like gruesome shit. And I'm like, I had to turn it off and like delete it because I'm like, this is just every time I'm scrolling, I'd see like the craziest things.
Yeah.
Like there's no censorship at all on Twitter.
Yeah. Good and a bad thing, I guess. Yeah.
It's
definitely
nice,
a fine line.
Yeah, some of it's like really like, because I'm all about no censorship and all that stuff, but I'm like, some of it's I'm just like, I can't, this is too much.
Yeah,
it is
for
crazy.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that it's a good thing though to be able to see stuff unfold like on Twitter. Like sometimes you can get news pretty quick on Twitter too. Like somebody will say like instantly what's happening in a situation where you're like, oh wow, there's this attack or like whatever this was happening right away.
That's usually how a lot of things, like, you know, you're not going to read something and think it's fact-based right away or that it's accurate, but it'll at least tell you where to look, like where something's happening, like, you know, and that you're exactly right. Twitter is like definitely first. Like people post on Twitter right away. So if, you know, if you think something's happening and you're seeing a bunch of tweets come out, you know, definitely take it with a grain of salt, but you know, maybe that's where you need to start looking, or maybe that's where you need to send someone, or that's where you need to have eyes on the ground. So yeah, that's definitely super useful tool to have. I don't personally have one, but
yeah,
I know a lot of my news junkie friends, that's where, you know, that's always what they're following, you know.
Yeah, that's my platform of choice just because I like reading things. I mean, visually it's fun to look through videos, but sometimes it's like super overwhelming. So I like to like read about different things.
Yeah.
And speaking of like finding the news, like whatever's happening right away, I heard of this thing, and I don't know how well, like how much this is true, but I guess near the White House, anytime there's like any massive event or like big thing happening overnight, there's always like a surge in pizza delivery orders. I didn't know this is a thing. So like people, people watch.
Were you saying this the other day, or is this on
Yeah, this was on another podcast I listened to, and they were talking about there's like a thing that people watch. Like when pizza delivery goes up near DC, like near the White House.
Hysterical.
It's because they're like ordering pizza or whatever. And I guess they used to get it delivered, and then it was like too many red flags. So now they're like looking at other options like Chinese and other things. But like people look at the takeout orders, and when it goes up, they know that there's something going on, whether it's in another country or something overnight that we're dealing with.
Something's
and it's
cooking.
Wild. Yeah, that's so wild that like people have figured that out.
Yeah, it is. I think there's a great picture. I think it was of like these Secret Service agents like bringing all these like bags of McDonald's in for Trump when he was president. And I think I was like reading a couple of comments, and it's like, who would have thought, you know, you go through all this schooling, training, all this like all these hoops you have to jump through just to become a Secret Service, and then you're bringing in McDonald's to the president at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's the only people that can do it, you know, like they don't have like another person where they're like, hey, you go do this. Like Secret Service are the only ones that probably go in and out easily there.
Things need to stay secret.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the McDonald's orders, I guess.
That's right.
It is kind of wild that people find these things to track in order to find out what's happening in the country or the world.
It is. I mean, it is very crazy how people find these trends. I mean, it's amazing. It really is.
What's one of the best places you've ever been for like your job? Like, is there a favorite country, a favorite city?
Oof, I don't know really. To be honest, I really only started traveling more out of the country like the last 2 years, a little bit more. So I feel like, you know, I guess Cuba was a cool one.
That's cool.
Very much, you know, it feels kind of like third world. It's poor. People are poor, but it's very much a beautiful country. I mean, the seaside is gorgeous. The people are beautiful. It feels like you are in a total time warp there. I mean, the cars, definitely, you know, you always see these old American cars that are from the 50s and 60s, and they take amazing care of them. I mean, it's incredible. But even the architecture there, it's beautiful, and it's just a complete different way of life down there. So I was lucky enough to get down there twice for Fidel Castro's funeral, and when Miguel Diaz-Canel was elected president there.
Wow.
So hopefully I get to go back there one day. I've really only been to Havana and a couple of beaches outside of it. But yeah, such a cool city.
And are you going to the Olympics at all? Because that's a big thing that's coming up.
In Paris? Oh man, I wish. I tried to get in there. I sent a few emails and tried to work my way in there already.
I feel like
but
everybody was on that one. They were like, I want to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a long list.
Yeah, unfortunately not. But I'm pretty much stuck on election duty for this year. So
okay.
I'll be going to Atlanta.
It's going to be pretty exciting, I bet, though.
Yeah, that's kind of like the Olympics, just in the
US.
US.
Yes, Olympic-esque for sure.
People that are way older than they should be for president. It's like the senior Olympics.
Yeah, exactly.
That's been pretty wild to watch. I mean,
yeah. We started in January. Started in January with the caucuses and the primaries, and then candidates got whittled down fairly quick. But I'll be in Atlanta at the end of the month to see the two of them debate, Biden and Trump, and then I'll be off to...
Which I'm surprised they agreed. I'm surprised Biden even agreed to that, or he...
I don't know that he did. Proposal out. Somebody agreed for him.
But that just blows my mind. I mean, that's just crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were already a bunch of scheduled dates, I think. So I think it kind of caught a lot of the media by surprise. I think it did catch Trump by surprise as well. But, who knows? A lot can happen. It's only 3 weeks away. We'll see if anything changes. I wouldn't be surprised, but hopefully it does. And hopefully it gives people a chance to listen to them on a somewhat controlled format.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what do you shoot for that? Like, are you outside shooting the crowd and waiting, or?
No, you know what? I won't be doing a lot of the editorial work. I'll be working with our reporters, just pretty much getting like what's happening out. I don't think I'll be, that's a good question. I don't know where we'll be. We're usually inside the venue, but I'm not going to see the two of them. I'm not going to see the two of them debating on stage, but we'll either be outside or we'll be inside the venue, but outside the debate room, and pretty much just reporting on happens. We'll be watching it in real time, and we'll be reporting any protests that'll be happening, and pretty much what it feels like to be there that day, and what it means maybe going forward.
That is awesome.
I feel very privileged. I mean, I do. I feel very lucky. I mean, you got to see history unfold. So, it's incredible to see that. So I'm hoping, I think the rest of the election year will be an interesting one, to say the least. I feel like people always say that. You've never seen this before. This is unprecedented, but a lot of the times it really is. So we'll see what happens. I'll be at the RNC in Milwaukee in July, and then at the DNC in Chicago in August. And those are kind of like where each candidate will be formally picked, I guess.
So in between these like massive events, do you have like smaller things that you do, or you just kind of wait for something to break and then you go to that event?
Sometimes you do a little bit of waiting, and that's kind of like the killer part of the job, because I don't like to wait. But and sometimes there's smaller stories that are only a couple of days. There's always breaking news that happens. I feel like the news cycle doesn't stay quiet for long. There's always something that comes along. And my department actually also we don't just do news. We're also kind of like the production arm of the AP. So we'll take on other gigs as well. We also will shoot. We have a client, the Sotheby's auction house, and they auction a lot of art.
That's
and
cool.
During COVID, they weren't allowed to, everyone was keeping their distance, and they weren't have in-house auctions anymore. So we had infrastructure in the same cities that they did, which was New York, London, Paris, and Hong Kong. And we had a team in each city that would set up multiple cameras and shoot these auctions. It was very limited in person. They had their own people in-house that would make the bidding for their clients. And we would shoot and switch a 4-city auction live and stream it out, so that they could still have people able to bid on these, amazing pieces of art online. which was incredible. We still do it for them. They have they moved away from the virtual auction. I think we just did one a couple of weeks ago, and I think they had about 200 people in house. We still shoot it and stream it and switch it so that, you know, people could still bid online, but that's kind of like something fun, a little different, a different kind of thing that we will produce. It's definitely amazing to see these artists that you learn about in textbooks, and you get to see these like Picassos or these like giant Rothkos spreading out in front of you. I'll never forget one of the first ones we ever did. This Botticelli got auctioned for about like 90 million, and it was like this beautiful Renaissance painting, and you get to see it right in front of you. I mean, it was incredible.
$90 million.
Right?
I'm gonna become a painter.
You're gonna become a painter? You can't just become a painter. So. You have to die first, and then it's worth money.
Well, yeah, cut off my ear or something.
Yeah. It is crazy what people spend on art. I mean, I get it, but it's like it's an auction, and people are like, "Yep, 20 million. Yep, 40 million." It's like, damn, like.
Yeah.
How much money do you have to spend $90 million on a painting?
On one painting. Yeah.
But then I've heard also when people get stuff like that, I don't know how true this is, but I think if you don't bring the art to your house or to your location, you can leave it in a space, like you bring a replica, you don't somehow pay the taxes on the sale because it stays within like
the confines of
like
the
storage.
art house.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know how true that is, but I've heard that like some people that buy these also don't keep them on their wall because if they get robbed, but they have a replica that looks exactly like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know much about that either. I'd probably want to keep it somewhere safe and you know, at the correct temperature with no sunlight, and you know, I'd imagine you'd want that under a super controlled environment because it's very much, you know, an investment. Some people invest in property and business and, you know, the stock market, and there's like art is definitely another form of investment because some of these pieces they announce, you know, haven't been outside of a private collection in 40, 50 years. So it's like, you know, hitting the art market 50 years later and just builds value over all those decades.
It's cool too, because now they've developed, I forget what the program's called, but there's a program that regular everyday people can now invest in art. So you can own like pieces of the art.
A piece of it, a share of it. I was just
really
talking to someone about that the other day, actually. Yeah. It kind of made me think twice about it. I'm like, maybe I could just buy like one little bit of a Picasso or something.
And then like when it sells, or if you sell your share, if it's appreciated, it's a really great idea because like you have, like you want to be able to like spread assets around, and like that's a great way to do it. Cause like we're not gonna be able to go buy a Picasso, but you could buy the piece of the Picasso and then it gets sold for whatever, an extra 20, 30 million. And you make like a piece of that.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It's like fractionalizing art.
Yeah. Definitely a cool idea, and probably something I'm going to look into as well.
Yeah,
kind of makes it a little bit more, I don't know, like you're able to jump in.
Yeah, I think more of that is happening now, which is cool. Like it's allowing people to jump in to like markets that were just not available to everybody.
I would frame my little square somewhere on the wall.
It's true. I don't know if they do it that way. If they're like, you own this pixel of this Picasso.
I like that idea though. They should, when you buy your little piece of art, they should give you a little visual representation of the piece that you have, even if it's a little blue square, you know, the little piece of sky.
Feel proud of something.
That's actually not a bad idea. I wonder if they do that, where it's like, this is the piece you own. It's kind of like when people, I don't know if people still do this, but you used to be able to buy stars. Be like, I own a star.
Oh yeah,
You'd have like a certificate. I don't know.
Oh, that's
dude. Fine. You can buy animals and shit at the zoo.
You can.
Like I know people who are like, oh, I bought a panda. I mean, you don't own it, but like they just send you a certificate saying this is your panda, this is your tiger.
Oh.
I mean, it's just a way for them to get money and you feel like you own something, but it's crazy.
Yeah, I think they do that for like animal sanctuaries. Animal sanctuaries, I think they get to do that too, where you donate, and they're like, "This is the elephant that you've donated money towards."
They They just send you a random elephant picture.
They just send you the same picture to everybody. Like they're like just driving around in like Lambos and Maseratis, and they're like, "Thanks for donating to this elephant that we keep showing everybody else." I wonder how many things are like that, where they're like, that's why
so
like
many.
anytime I go to like Petco or some other place, they're like, "Would you like to donate?" And I'm like,
dude, you were just telling me about
is this really going to the cause?
Yeah.
Because like I don't know that I believe it. If it was, I would love to donate, but I don't.
What I heard
was
the company, and I thought we talked about this, but the company already donated money to them. This is for them to collect to get their money back,
right?
And probably plus some,
right? And there's no cap on it. They're not like, oh, sorry, we've already collected the amount. They're like,
we've reached our
yeah, that's true. So they basically donate $1 million, and then they wait for everybody else to give them like $1.5 million, and they keep doing different causes. That's kind of crazy. Yeah. I don't know where that whole space will end up, because it's like, I think people are opening their eyes to these things where it's like, is my money really going to these causes? And like, I think it's better to just wait and like either give money to somebody that really needs it, like personally, or like donate straight to a cause, like go to an animal shelter and like donate money. I think that's like a better way to do it nowadays, just because like you know where it's going. But I don't know.
For sure. Definitely probably benefits if you, know the owner of the cause or whatever. Want to make sure it doesn't get lost or skimmed along the way.
Yeah. What's the, going back to the film walks that you go on, what's like your favorite, like what are you looking at to shoot when you, like, is it landscapes? Is it street photography? Is there something that you're drawn towards more? Is it people?
To be honest, it's very rarely people. I'm not a big portrait guy. I guess I know a lot of people, that's what they like. I'm definitely not up close in anyone's face. You see like a lot of these street photographers with their flashes and they're shoving their cameras in someone's face and catching them off guard. It's definitely not my style at all. My small little Canon has a 40 millimeter like fixed lens, and it's definitely, I guess it's similar to what your eye sees. I'm definitely shooting buildings or landscapes or something, scenes that are a little bit wider. If there's people in it, they're small, far away. Kind of like an establishing type of scene,
Do you bring it with you when you go over to those other countries to like maybe get some cool shots like that?
Yeah, I do. Awesome. I do. Yeah. It's, and that's another way that, I told you, like, to go out, immerse yourself and see people. But I definitely, when I have a little downtime, I definitely bring my camera and we'll just go on big long walks. And, that makes it a lot of fun, just to be out on your own, kind of doing your own thing. And it gives you a nice memory to look back on. I try to, I definitely save all my negatives. I get them all digitized, so they're all on my computer and on a hard drive, and I like to print them out every now and again. And, even if I'll just put up a few in my apartment or give a couple of prints to someone or whatever. But yeah, that's definitely probably one of the times that I really love most to shoot is when I'm out on assignment and I get to bring my camera and have a little bit of time for myself and take advantage of that time. Yeah, for sure.
Now, what do you think if somebody was trying to get into the field of Associated Press and operate cameras and live switching? What do you think the path is? Is it the news station, local news station, you think, like you did? Or do you think there's another way that's better?
You know what? If you can, if you can break in, I learned that really gave me a great start, the local news. For me, at least. That's where I really learned how to shoot and edit a news package. That's where you learn how to deal with stress. That's where you learn how to cut a news package very quickly. That's how you learn how to meet deadlines and where to cut corners and where not to. But, I guess just going back and there just being so many different outlets on social media and, news websites, blogs. You know, there's definitely, who knows, you know, a lot of people I'm sure get their start just by publishing their own stuff. It's definitely, for me, I mean, it was a learn by doing field. I went to school for TV and radio production, but I learned so much more in, you know, 3 to 6 months at freelancing for News 12 than I did in like 4 years of school. You need to do it to learn it. And you need to get out there and talk to people to get a sense for how things really work, and, you know, different techniques to talk to people or shoot people, or it's definitely a learn by do for me. So as long as you're getting out there creating and, you know, working hard, and you like what you do, and you're putting, you know, you're making an effort to get out there, I'm sure things will fall into place. Just, you know, definitely practice and put your stuff out there so that, you know, as many people can see it as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. You learn more from doing the thing, especially in the creative field.
Yeah. So, and maybe, you know, maybe that's not all aspects, but for the camera work, for me, yes. Maybe if you want to go be a news journalist, or you want to, you know, you want to write, you know, there's a lot of, you know, standards that you have to learn about and read about. You know, you can read and learn that way, and read what not to do and what to do. But for camera work, it's a visual medium, and, you know, you need to get the camera up and see what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. Well, this has been awesome. We appreciate you coming on here and hanging out with us and bringing us through what you do at the Associated Press.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys both, Sean and Dan. I really much appreciate you guys having me on. This was kind of my first interview, so
well, you killed
apologize for any flubs or anything. But yeah, thank you guys very much. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, this is awesome. Cool.